Well, here is the new gate and all the rock we put down. And then we're going to concrete over the rock. And then we'll end up bringing more rock in. Because we ended up putting 8 yards of rock down at the corner. And every time there's heavy, heavy rain, it gets covered up in dirt. And so this is my other neighbor that's building right now. American from Texas. You know, funny thing is we were both stationed in Hawaii at the same time. Didn't know each other, but you know, we're both in the Navy together. Yeah. So the gate's about 350 pounds, and you can swing it, you know, with one hand. Yeah. And then, you know, our fence that's 8 feet tall. I put the panels up because the dogs would get on that mound and bark at everything, and I got fed up with them last night doing it. Yeah. So the blue column we had to put on the other side of the fence line. You know, and then, you know, they'll today probably, you know, kind of move the fence out of the way and, you know, finish the wall going up and attach, you know, the bars. And then we don't have to worry about, you know, back fence. Yeah, but it's a very intimidating wall. Yeah, it definitely will be serving the purpose that it was built for. And then along the back, we'll be putting up a either 6 or 8 foot, you know, solid block wall. Yeah, you know, the neighbor back there likes the idea because, you know, building it to U.S. standards, and you know, if there's a typhoon, it'll basically protect his house because his house is right back there. You know, yeah, all the dogs are out playing. The tore up couch that the dogs sleep on. And then this folds out into, you know, like a queen size bed. You know, but you know, it takes like 2 people to do it because it's probably 200 pounds just to fold that section out. So the wood from these came from wife's grandma's property that she planted 10 years ago, an oak tree. And so, and the cool thing is the first one to sleep on it was grandma, whose property it came off of. And then we got 4 pigs. You know, the 2 biggest ones will end up being lechon and, you know, other meals here in about a month and a half. And then all the chickens, and there's I think over 20 chicks running around. You know, and I just mowed, you know, that whole section because it's all mint. You know, and so it gets pretty tall and thick, and you know, you couldn't even see the big pig, you know, when he was out running around in it. And then all the railings and fences are done. Yeah, we're going with the same blue that the gate is. So, brother-in-law started yesterday putting red lead on it and blue, and it's the same smell that I remember in the Navy, painting red lead. And then over here is their area that they weld in. The wood guy, when he's here, he's got an area. Piles of concrete yet. We had a outdoor bathroom made. That way, when the dogs are shoved in the bedroom, people have access to a bathroom. And it's a flush toilet, not a typical Filipino toilet. And then that's our septic. And then we're putting in a second tank that we'll tie the first one into. And so, we won't have any problem, And if the first one goes bad, we've got this one that, we can use as the main one. We had a couple torrential downpours this last week, and so it's probably got, I think probably down to a foot. It had about 4 feet of water in it. Yeah. And then our 4 goats. The brown one with horns all the way on the side there, pregnant, so we'll see about the babies here before too long. Yeah. And then the big pig we've nicknamed Bully, because that's exactly what he is. He's just a big bully. Yeah. And then there's the 2 others. Fourth one, Blue, is coming up here. Yeah, other side of the trees where the house is being built is a giant piggery, and they've actually built a second one, so they've probably got 20-30 pigs over there. So every morning and evening when they're getting fed, you can hear them all squealing. And then the neighbors took the weed eater to their property and just cleared it last week, because before you couldn't even see where their pig's at. And then the rice is getting ready to get harvested here shortly, and it's terraced rice fields all the way up. And they just got all the water troughs all functioning again, so they can start using all of it. Probably this next go around. But it's getting there. We don't have a lot of projects left. But we designed it so, with all the caps and everything. So, if there's a typhoon, it won't take, the roof off, the main sections. It might take off, over the patio, but, it's not worried about that. But, the top 2 have caps on it and, tilt back. The front one, tilts forward, so, You know, you don't have to worry about gutters or anything. Yeah. And everything in the yard is from the goats. It's not from the dogs. The goats come out, get in the trash, and carry it around like little freaking pack rats. But you know, this is the view at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah. Yeah. And for those that know Valor, there she is. She's getting older. She's come down with dementia, so evenings pretty rough for her. But she's got 2 or 3 of the puppies that she raised that are now a year or 2 old. Anytime that she goes off the patio, they're with her. And so they take her on adventures in the evening. Come nighttime she doesn't do so well. But usually when it gets dark she wants to go into the bedroom with the air conditioning. But she's still around. She's super white now. But she gets lost out in the yard at times, and so you have to go find her. And then Spot was the little tiny rescue dog that used to fit in your cargo pocket, and took him to the vet. He said that he probably wouldn't make it 2 more days if we hadn't brought him in. And so he's probably Valor's #1 companion. Because he was so small, we were afraid that the other dogs would beat the crap out of him. And so when we weren't home, he was always with Valor. So she basically raised him. Came in a few times and couldn't find him because she was sitting on him. So And then all of our drinking water, which cost us 20 pesos a bottle, so for 10, 200 pesos, so $4 total, unlike the US prices, which are absolutely freaking crazy. And then the giant TV and the karaoke setup. So people are here, or someone wants to do karaoke, they have full access to it. And then watching movies, we've got surround sound, up above. But it's coming along. It's getting ready to have this area painted. So, but it's this is where I stand every single morning having coffee, looking out and watch the sun come up. And then I get to watch as the guys come out and put their buffaloes out. And over next to the property that has the house going up, the funny thing is there's 2 signs on the trees that say, basically, don't put your buffalo here, and that's where, one of the guys always ties his buffalo up. So they should be moving in there first part of the summer. And it is definitely a Western style house. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Big gigantic walk-in closet, which is bigger than most bedrooms in Western style homes. Well, I figured I'd fill everyone in before I go and mow our access road in front to keep all the grass at bay. But yeah, here's everything going on. Neighbors out hanging laundry, because she was probably up at 5:30 or so, washing the clothes. So until next time, talk to you later.